Our story begins in Los Angeles with these two idiots. You can tell they'd just done something wrong from the tons of cash Tweed is counting. Not to mention the way Victor keeps checking the rear mirror. And you know what they say, it's not paranoia if they're really after you. Ramon Chaves is really after them. A clumsy car chase evolves into a clumsy crossfire. Tweed doesn't make it. Victor gets hit, but gets back up fast enough to fire back. But maybe he should have stayed down. Ramon Chaves is delighted to reveal he's actually an LAPD officer undercover, which, combined to the sound of sirens getting closer and closer, means that Victor is pretty much done for. As he goes to jail, we see him busy with all that usual inmate stuff that makes us think prison is just a gym with orange outfits. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, a private detective named Kirk is calling his client Alex. He tells him that his son has been located. We now learn that Victor's real name is Vincent, and he's in Valverde State Prison for robbery. He tells him about Ramon Chaves too, but it seems like he shot first, and it kind of got Vincent off the hook on that. Something you should know about Alex is that he's a retired Black Ops agent. That explains why he makes such an effort to look cool at all times, even when visiting his son in jail. He also notices that two of the guards have the same name. What a coincidence. Facing each other through the glass, Alex calls Vincent's son, but Vincent makes sure to call him Alex. Yeah, that will show him. The boy wants to know if it was Kirk who found him, but Alex doesn't deny or confirm. He's too cool for that. He asks him about the undercover cop and tries to get the boy to open up about what happened. But Vincent is not interested in making this easy. He brings up all the nasty stuff Alex has done in the job and refuses to hear that it's any different. When that doesn't make him back off, he goes for the low blow and mentions his mom on her deathbed. Alex has always been way too busy with the cool agent stuff and had no time for the family at all, not even at a time like that. Vincent had to lie to her and say he was on his way. Alex says he is trying to make up for all that now. Vincent points out how convenient it is to be there for him now that his visiting hours are so limited. Kid's got a point. In another room in Valverde, we meet the notorious terrorist, Max Chandler. It's his parole hearing, and a long list of his wrongdoings is read aloud. The impressive resume has words like eyeball in it, so he's asked why on earth he should be granted parole. He claims to be more dangerous inside than out there. And then he asks the time. It's 3 minutes to 1 p.m. And by the way, Alex is still in the building. He's pacing back and forth in the men's room, probably trying to figure out parenthood or something like that. Then, just as the minute hand goes up, there are several simultaneous explosions all over Valverde. The officer standing behind Max Chandler opens fire, taking down the whole panel, who never realized it was their hearing all along. Some of the inmates wonder if it's an earthquake. Vincent is one of these geniuses. A man named Luke gets to the control room to take the next shift, relieving the previous team in a rather permanent way. Talking to Max over comms, he gets the green light for the next phase. Phase 2 involves Max talking to the whole prison. He tells them they are now presented with a choice. They can either join him and stay there until his demands are met, or they are free to go. Visitors and surviving staff members are told to surrender their phones to one of the rebellion reps and have themselves escorted to the cafeteria, where they will held at gunpoint until this is all over. And then he warns this specific demographic of his audience not to be a hero. Alex regains consciousness at the word hero. Now Gen Pop is gone from hardcore gym to teacherless preschool. Max closes his eyes to enjoy the chaos like a proper psycho. Then he asks for a phone. He wants to send his demands to the press and the FBI, inaugurating a whole new level of "I wanna talk to the manager." He starts his video with the highlights of his resume: church bombings, terrorist attacks on government buildings, and so on. Then he narrates the events of the past few minutes, making sure to include imagery of the warden that would leave no doubt over his present status. Everyone inside the prison can hear the message as well. The demands are a getaway helicopter and the immediate release of 6 members of the Trier's crime family. These guys are to be escorted to a country that has no extradition to the United States. Only when they safely enter their new home will Max release the hostages and have all the remaining bombs defused. All of this must be done in 6 hours. One of the correctional officers finds Alex and asks him what he's up to, standing in an empty hallway like that. Now this is the 3rd officer with the same name tag, Smith. Maybe it's a big family where the passion for penitentiaries runs in their genes. Or maybe they're all infiltrated, which makes much more sense. Alex pretends to fall for it until he has the opportunity to take him down. Now there's someone calling on the radio. Alex answers that, impersonating Smith III. He says it's all good in that hallway. Nothing to worry about, my fellow criminals. Outside the prison, a response team is all set up. Officer Chaz Coleman is getting briefed on the whole mess, and that's when we learn more about Max Chandler. Although he takes every opportunity to brag about his crimes, there is a little gap in that stellar resume he's not that proud of. He was once part of the LAPD bomb squad. Luke takes a bunch of boys to Max Chandler and says these are the new recruits, meaning the ones who were dumb enough to choose him over freedom. And yes, our boy Vincent is one of them. The first one to speak up is Rico Walker, and he swears he'll do anything that Max may tell him to. Luke begins to laugh, probably guessing what's about to happen. Max goes right for Rico's throat. The new recruits watch him slowly say goodbye to his pathetic existence. As an explanation, Max says you should never trust the first one to speak up. He asks them if anyone else is eager to kiss his ass like that. No one feels like it. Then, he mentions the armory. There must be one in the building, in order to prevent this exact event from happening. Vincent knows where it is, so he's tasked with escorting his mates there. Luke radios one of the Smiths to pick up what was once Rico Walker, and then leaves with a quick compliment on Max's pedagogical skills. Agent Coleman takes the mic and initiates the negotiation. He says those demands might take some time. You can't just set people free like that. He also points out that Max offered the inmates a false freedom when he told them to walk out. He doesn't have the same power past the gates and never bothered to stress that too much. Coleman says the inmates who actually tried were all caught very soon. But what the agent is saying also works well for Max. If any of his new followers were wondering if they made the right choice, that's their answer. After Coleman is done talking, a round of gunshots is heard. Max greets the negotiator and clarifies that what everyone has just heard was the preventable demise of one of the prison doctors. He asks Coleman if that gives him an idea of what kind of speed we're talking about here. Coleman sheepishly says that yes, it sure does. So it's time for a badass hero to step in. Alex calls one of the agents outside, asking for Coleman. He tells him about the fake Smiths and where the hostages are allegedly being held. But when he starts to tell him how to conduct the negotiations from this point forward, Coleman finally asks who the hell he's talking to. Alex says that all he needs to know is that he has a friend inside. That's so sweet of him, but the agent doesn't sound very touched. So Alex says he's the janitor and hangs up. Coleman tries to have the call traced to at least confirm that guy is really inside. Or maybe just so it looks like they're doing something. 2 more Smiths are chatting in the hallway now. Alex sneaks up behind one of them while the other enters the men's room. They are exchanging your mama insults through the door. Alex gets the first one as silently as he can. The other one hasn't noticed it yet. So there's time for a weapon upgrade before the door opens. Now there are 2 less Smiths to worry about. A young man named Freddie comes running and gets very scared to see Alex like that, standing on the Smiths like a douchebag hunter over big cats. But Alex realizes this kid is not one of the masterminds. He could be one of the few smart inmates who decided to simply hide and wait it out. So he lets him go. The recruits are raiding the armory now, some of them very excited. Not Vincent though, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Luke asks him why no gun, and he says this is what put him in the orange suit in the first place. Now he prefers other duties, like watcher. Luke then asks him what the hell he thinks a watcher should do if someone is really coming. Keep watching. Running out of arguments, the boy just takes the shotgun. Not too far from the armory, two more Smiths are jumped by Alex and succumb to his special set of skills. Outside, Agent Coleman is debating strategies with his superiors. It doesn't look like they see eye to eye on this, since he keeps bringing up his experience with stuff like this and how his judgment should be trusted. When he gets off the phone, he explains the frustration. People upstairs want him to play it by the book, but he knows this kind of scenario can only be resolved with gut instinct. Chandler asks for an update, and Coleman is forced to say they have nothing yet. More gunshots are heard, and Chandler makes it clear that it was another hostage tragically lost to Coleman's incompetence. The agent tells him the helicopter is coming and he's working on the military escort. Alex has now reached a corner that leads to the armory. He's now carrying around a mini armory of his own, made up of all the weapons he's collected from the fallen Smiths. The recruits are loudly celebrating the raid, and Vincent is still among them. He can see his father hiding behind that wall, so he comes up with an excuse to split up and meet his mates at the West Wing later. Once he leaves his pals, they hear someone whistle. Alex slides a smoke grenade into the hallway and begins to take them down one by one. In the control room, Vincent asks Max about the bodies. He had told Agent Coleman that each of his mistakes had cost a life, but now he's sitting there all by himself. It looks like it was all a lie. Max asks Luke to take the men out and to do the rounds. That's their cue to leave him alone with his new pupil. He tells Vincent that people like Coleman don't understand how things play out in the real world. All you need to do to trick law enforcement is to keep them busy. Find a large enough task, and they'll be buried in it for as long as you need. Those 6 members of the Trier family, for example, are just random names Luke found for him. He couldn't care less about them. One of the newbies comes running to tell Max they've got 2 men down. Someone has just attacked them. He couldn't have a good look at the man because of the smoke, but he could tell he wasn't wearing any uniform. For the first time, Max looks somewhat concerned. It sounds like an ugly flaw in what was a perfect plan until now. He talks to Coleman about this little problem, firing another deceptive round. They had a deal about sending people in, and now there is someone attacking his men inside. So Alex gets a text from Agent Coleman. Apparently, the mysterious janitor act didn't work at all, as the response team eventually figured out his identity. Coleman tells him to get out and stop pissing off Max, or there might be more casualties. Alex says he hasn't seen a single hostage yet, and he has a bad feeling about it. And since his cover is blown, he takes the opportunity to ask about his son. Coleman tells him there is no Vincent Barrows among the inmates who made it out. Back in the control room, Max is grinding the team about the intruder. He says he knows cops, and this guy has a different style. Only someone from Special Forces would be able to remain undetected this long. One of the Smiths decides to ask a dangerous question. He wants to know what they're gonna get if they manage to take this guy down. Another Smith chimes in to say that such an increased risk should come with higher profits. Max has no time to discuss principles now, so he offers $1 million to whoever brings him the guy's head. Sneaking into the kitchen, Alex confirms his worst fears. All the hostages are in the freezer. He calls Coleman and gives him the terrible news. That makes him let his guard down for a moment. A particularly large Smith is waiting for him. Another clumsy fight takes place, but Alex gets hold of the gun right in time to stop the man's knife. One more Smith is down, but now Alex is pretty sure there's a manhunt going on. Max must have put all the minions after him, and that might even include Vincent. That's when we have a demonstration of how dumb Agent Coleman can be. He gets a call from an unknown number and answers the phone saying, "Hi, Alex." Of course it's not Alex, it's Max Chandler. And now he has a name. Coleman tries to regain some ground by revealing even more. He says he knows what Max has done to the hostages, and it's only a matter of time before SWAT teams descend upon Valverde. Max doesn't buy that, correctly guessing that Coleman didn't inform his superiors. He's fully relying on Alex to end this. And where is our hero now? Dodging bullets fired by his own son. Vincent says Max is one of the few people who understand the real world. He says he's ashamed of being his son because Alex is the only one who's committing murder here. So Vincent is obviously ignorant about the contents of the freezer. That's why he's defending Max. Alex tells him the truth, but instead of taking him to the kitchen, where he could easily prove it, he decides to say something cryptical about his late wife and how Vincent takes after her stupidity. That doesn't go very well for his leg. To make it all worse, Max calls him on the radio. He is tricked into playing good cop, which requires some sharing on his part. That's all Max needs to put two and two together. Alex can only be here to save someone. Realizing his mistake, he calls Coleman for an update. The agent reveals that he lied to Max. His superiors are aware of what happened to the hostages and that Chopper will never make it to the border. Alex asks him to spare his son, but Coleman says his hands are tied. So Alex goes Smith hunting while Coleman tells Max his ride is coming. Vincent is shocked to hear his new mentor say the others will be left behind. He realizes Alex was right about this guy all along. It's time for a rooftop finale, with a duel between Vincent's father figures. Both of them get hit, and our boy finally makes his choice. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2023 movie Breakout by First Class Productions, starring Vincent Barrows and Chaz Coleman. So, if you had to guess, which character's brain is the tiniest? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.